Hello, my dotlings. So, today we are going to be talking about why, as a spiritual person, you should be nicer to your electronics. So this is something I've been thinking about for a while. It's kind of been on the back burner for videos I'd like to do. But I saw one not that long ago from a lady named Lorelei Black. She's with Blade and Broom. She was actually, she was on Shameless Self-Promotion back when we live streamed. That's how long ago I found her channel. She did a video on working with AI and the algorithm. I got this backwards. So if you go, I'll try to put a link in here when I get wherever I'm going. But working with the algorithm and AI as spirit. Very interesting video. Not a beginner level video. She is a traditional folkloric witch. So really none of her stuff is like beginner level. But my channel is kind of built for my clients, people who are just entering spiritual awakening, and if that's you, congratulations, and I'm sorry. Or just people looking for interesting ideas. You know, I try to accommodate. But I have been saying this to people for a long time. Even advanced practitioners don't really stop and think about their electronics having their own persona. One thing I really liked about her video, she kind of broke down the different models of how energy works, how spirits work. I like the animist one myself, that everything kind of has its own charge and kind of builds its own persona from that. And the same way like people use house spirits and things like that, which it's a good way to look at things. But like purely from a psychological standpoint, from the eternal skeptic in my soul, I can see where simply treating your electronics like their own persona would cause you to treat them better. You are more likely to learn how something works, like an algorithm, or even your own cellular device, to be more compassionate with it if you perceive it as having a persona, some sort of personhood, or, you know, sentience even. And sometimes just simply by changing the way we look and think about an object directly affects how we treat that object. You know, I see so many people who want to use and abuse their phones and then treat their bodies like a machine and wonder why everything's always breaking down. The truth is that every machine has its requirements for input and output and maintenance, and our physical bodies are no different. So if you start to look at everything that same way as you would look at another person, it gives you a little more perspective for treating things more delicately. I would say delicately, but with some sort of baseline of civility. You know, you can't expect your phone to work if you slam it against things, and it becomes expensive, and it takes a toll. Being cruel to your electronic devices has its toll in and of itself. They don't work as long, they don't work as well. Yeah, there you go. So that's like the purely skeptical side. On a more animistic level, like, you know, there's a karmic level. If you start to believe something has a persona of its own, and you've been mistreating every cell phone you had, it makes sense that the next one you get, you're not going to be able to pay for a nicer phone. You're going to have to get the cheaper phone, which is going to break down faster, make you mad faster, it's going to break faster, and you end up in that cycle. And if that's you, sometimes the best thing to do is to just stop being an asshole. And you can start where you are. Like, okay, just walking and talking. Whew. That counts as exercise, right? I don't care if it does. Anyhow, on a psychic level, spiritual level, I do believe that where attention goes, energy flows. And that's very much, especially like out in this sort of unknowable world of the internet. Like, I mean, there's the physical aspect, you know, our actual electronics we hold in our hands that we interface with. That in and of themselves, we are reaching out through. So if we treat this thing as a thinking being, as a friend, it becomes its own divination tool. Very much like a tarot cards. I know people who really baby their tarot cards, and I am not one of them. Should I treat my cards better? Yes, I should treat everything and everybody better. I try. I'm out here stressed, depressed, and doing my best, as it were. However, I try not to be disrespectful to my cards, because that tends to make them not work. One of my favorite examples of this is actually somebody I love and know dearly and love, has these machines he has to work with at work. And he was complaining about how they never work correctly. They don't want to sync up. They don't want to come on. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to go into a job where the boss yelled at me every single day and I never really got any praise or anything like that. I would not continue to work there. I say that as if I haven't worked at a job I hated. But you know, you quiet quit. You show up late. You don't clock in on time. You don't do the work efficiently. And you know, a little attaboy every now and again makes a big difference in the environment and the amount of work you can get done, really. And so we had this conversation, like, have you tried talking to them and being nice? And he's like, because he is, of course, also a fellow practitioner, you know, spiritual person. And so he started doing that. And lo and behold, they come on, they work correctly, except for the one. It's a little bit of a diva. But generally, they're all working better. They're syncing up faster, they're coming on faster, the updates are better. But he's also doing the regular maintenance more often, you know. And when you stop looking at your electronics as simply a tool and more as a, you know, the same way if you're a magical practitioner or psychic, a spiritual person, you would use your cell phone more like you would any other divination device, or just simply being nice to them as if they are capable of thinking and feeling, then they are naturally going to behave better, because we are more likely to give them what they need to function better. So those are my thoughts on the idea. This is definitely like more animistic. If you get a chance to check out that video, it is worth a watch. Just be there with a pen and paper. You're gonna have to take notes. So that's my thoughts. I'd like to do a bigger video on this someday. Put it on the list. Safe travel and much profit to you.